web-slinging mainstay of the Marvel Universe returns to the interactive forum in his latest video game, The Amazing Spiderman, a loose tie-in to the eponymous film trying to stake its claim as more than just a bargain bin throwaway. Developer Beanox have underwhelmed with previous Spider-Man games that did little to stimulate the imagination, and have actively set out to redefine the experience from the ground up. Can Spidey save the day with something amazing, or is this just another leapfrogging day through Manhattan?
Give me a break. All these different tunnels? I didn't sign up for the grand tour.
You know you're not supposed to be here after hours, especially with a guest.
The Amazing Spider-Man takes place after the events of the feature film, and in doing so contains mild spoilers of the movie's outcome. Despite not being wholly indicative of all its events, those anxious to remain spoiler-free might want to steer clear of the game until the film has been released. A brief opening cinematic shows Dr. Alistair Smythe as the current operational head of Oscorp and their propaganda vision of a bright and prosperous future. You're then guided as Peter Parker through the bowels of the company's cross-species experimental research division with love interest Gwen Stacy, where the volatile specimens break loose and go on a rampage. With Gwen and the Oscorp staff infected and the beast loose against New York City, Spidey wastes no time in breaking out his former mentor Dr. Kirk Connors from asylum in order to develop an antidote to prevent a global pandemic while unearthing conspiracy and dangerous developments within Oscorp. It's nothing too convoluted, and the script injects some worthwhile humour with unusual story beats to keep proceedings from descending into becoming sluggish.
I focus on bats instead of reptiles for some reason.
No Batman out there, Doc. That's just ridiculous.
The inclusion of a fictional social network feed in between loading screens hints at the escalating chaos of the spreading infection, which provides small doses of humour and helps the world feel a bit more alive. All focus is squarely on the outbreak rather than Peter and Gwen's relationship, and though it packs enough closure to leave you satisfied, the ending feels somewhat abrupt, hinting at potential future downloadable content or another installment altogether. As it stands, it's an enjoyable odyssey from start to finish.
Well, good to know you like to be on top, but I don't usually go this far on a first date.
Does the network know you got a potty mouth?
The Amazing Spider-Man sets you on an open but directed path. You navigate the expanse of New York City using a menu waypoint system to seek out objectives, as well as sojourn in a variety of industrial locations. An Oscorp-branded phone plays diary as you use it to unlock character upgrades through a standard experience system that increase Spider-Man's strength and web abilities. You also enhance his gadgetry through gathering components of destroyed nanobots across New York City, or by acquiring new items from hidden Oscorp labs scattered throughout Manhattan, guarded by powerful security. A bulk of the game is spent indoors, traversing labs, landmarks, or somewhere in between, as well as taking the frequent trudge through sewers or going on all fours through vents. The mix of human, mechanical, and cross-species enemies pad out the obstacles for the entire experience, but their initial diversity borders on repetitive as the story wears on. The combat and arena structure mimics the superior layout of games like Batman Arkham Asylum, but if anything, Amazing Spider-Man plays more leniently in allowing you to stitch together effective moves while the combo multiplier rapidly climbs. You can interact with environmental objects for added firepower when enemies swarm you for some added clout, as well as temporarily slow them down with projectile web shooters to safely go in for the knockout finish. The game also dabbles into stealth with stealth takedowns from high points, but your cover can be blown by enemies with spotlights and sniper lasers, or by pesky droids that can scan out your location. The boss battles are fun for the most part, but wear thin as the game goes on, and the formidable robot combatants emerge as the obvious standouts.
Get close for comfort. Now's the time!
Introduced in Amazing Spider-Man is the Web Rush feature, which not only allows for dexterous attacks, but radically slows down time to both navigate the environment and get the jump on enemies. It fits like a glove, and the game is generous in showing you every possible surface that you can web rush to, and although it can be disabled in the menu, it's handy to accommodate you to the game's sense of rhythm. The PlayStation 3 version of the game also integrates PlayStation Move into the experience, and it works well save for the camera becoming stuck in cramped areas and when poised on building antennas, which will hopefully be remedied in upcoming patches. There's very little motivating you to use Move throughout the entire experience, as it fails to significantly augment the game in any way, but it's fun to try your hand at getting more active to guide our friendly neighbourhood Spider-Man through Manhattan. The great outdoors are where it's at, and Manhattan has plenty to see and do, made all the more easy with the fluid web swinging system, which despite the odd response hiccup is marvellously implemented. Your apartment acts as a hub world, allowing you to replay previous levels and increase your scores, as well as to suit up in various outfits you unlock through the game or via paid DLC. The open world comes loaded with a dense abundance of side missions that span from petty muggings and rescuing infected citizens to on-road chases and foiling bank robberies. Novel additions like racing sprints and collecting photos for news outlets pleasantly supplement the ordinary humdrum of saving the day quests and keep things from going stale. Periodically avoiding rooftop snipers and cross-species scanner bots that call in heavy reinforcements keep you on your toes and are an unexpected touch. The odd assortment of collectibles extend the playtime exponentially as you unlock galleries and comic books by collecting loose pages found throughout the city. It all lends an air of pace, and the feeling of hitching a ride on a chopper to take it all in is nothing but joyous. AAA or not, The Amazing Spider-Man is a visually well-rounded game, and though it's not an enormous leap, it's a step above previous entries in the franchise. Web swinging has never looked or felt better, and the occasional frame rate stutter does little to diminish the sheer enthusiasm the game imparts in making you feel like Spider-Man, much in thanks to the tweaked placement of the camera. Ironically, the game stumbles when it loses all sense of motion. Dull environmental textures, stiff civilian models, and an overall lack of finite detail take front and centre, and the combat camera is jerky here and there. Fortunately, the voice acting is solid across the board, and the unobtrusive soundtrack lends a generous forward momentum to the action. By all parts, this is unequivocally a true Spider-Man game. The Amazing Spider-Man isn't the most polished game we'll see in 2012, but it carefully evaluates what works to its advantage, and more often than not, it triumphs in bringing players an entertaining experience. The rough edges are still there, and it fails to match the ambition of more successful comic book translations, but if you're after a lengthy and thoroughly enjoyable dose of heroics, get tangled in this web and go nuts.